Hey guys, Chairman here. So, Hololive playset, I'll be getting mine very shortly, but in the meantime, I've just been really trying to make do with the boxes that I've opened, as well as all the TDs I have, and I thought I wanted to challenge myself, what is the best Hololive deck that I could make without using a single double rare card. So we did the whole upgrade series with the TDs where we try to stay within each generation and upgrade each TD without using double rares, but now I thought, what if we just took the entire Hololive card pool, no double rares, let's make the best deck we can. And so obviously the first two questions we have to answer is what is going to be our climax combos, our level 1 climax combo, preferably speaking if we're going for an advantage engine, and what is our finisher climax combo going to be. The first thought was, of course, let's play level 3 Ruxia, because level 3 Ruxia is just an amazing card. Even if you look at Hololive decks currently, it's one of the best finishing endgames, comes out at level 2. It's like a really powerful card we can play, and most importantly, the important thing about Ruxia is that the entire package takes up a lot of cards and all comes from the TD. So these are all cards from the Ruxia package. They're all from the TD, all available, pretty low rarity, and it's really strong. So I thought, yeah, this is a great place to start. It's one of the best finishing combos in the set. It comes available to us at very low rarity, and it's pretty easily accessible. A lot of the other finishing combos that are good that I considered, just really for low rarity, it was like maybe Polka. Like Polka's not really a bad combo. I actually quite like it a lot. Yeah, I also have Polka. Really not much else you could go for. And Polka's issue is that you don't really have anything going on at level 2, so I have to kind of figure that out. So I thought Ruxia was like the automatic choice for our finisher combo. I think it's just really strong. It gives us a really consistent game plan at level 2 and at level 3. The fact that Ruxia can act as a extender at level 2, just building board advantage, building hand advantage, and act as a finisher at level 3, I think that's ridiculous. Oh, and then another thing is that playing Ruxia combo locks us into green and yellow. And so the moment we go into green and yellow, the next step is just an automatic 4 of Subaru. Subaru is just such an amazing card for decks that can run it. And Subaru basically requires you to level blue at level 0 or going into level 1, and you have to have yellow in your clock at some point in time so you can play her. But once you do, you have access to a top check, or it's an Akatsuki for 4, level 1 or higher, but that's not really usually too much of a downside. It's on play, on demand, super powerful. It also has a decent body, like 5k body is not bad at all. So I think immediately, yeah, like this is what we go for. We go Ruxia, we're going blue yellow. Subaru is an automatic easy fit. I think this is shaping out already to be like a really great shell. So then the next question is, what level 1 climax combo are we going to play? So this deck already looks like it's going to be like a 1k1 deck. Standby is going to be kind of hard to fit in, so we do need a level 1 climax combo that gives us advantage. So generally speaking, if you're playing Subaru, you want a blue level 1 climax combo, but you could also make a yellow climax combo work. You just have to level blue and not be stuck at 1-0. Luckily, there are many options in Hololive that can help you with that. So one thought is going for Flare. I think Flare is definitely a solid choice because we are already running the brainstorms that synergize with the Flare, so that the Flares get really big at level 1 and potentially can remain on the field so you don't have to replace them for your level 1 game. However, the issues I have with Flare, number one issue with Flare is that the combo is not selective. So it's twin drive and it's top check. And in this deck, we really want to get our pieces. We want to get our brainstorm, we want to get our Flare, and we also need to get our Ruxia because we're summoning Ruxia from hand. So that's 3 selective pieces that we really need to hit going into level 2. And sometimes you can get just blasted through level 1. Like, generally speaking, you get 2 turns per level, but sometimes, that doesn't happen, especially first deck. So if you get blasted at 2 and you don't have your pieces ready, you're super far behind with this deck. So that's like a pretty big issue. The second issue with Flare is that the climax is a choice, and choice climax it's good. It's a good climax, but in this deck, it's not really that good. A lot of the good cards that we want are level 1s and level 0s, which don't have soul triggers. In addition, the soul climax doesn't help us loop the Ruxia climax, and let's say we trigger the Ruxia climax. If we get the choice climax, we're not really doing anything with that climax mid to late game. Obviously, we can like climax swap it away or something like that, but it's not really a good climax to loop. The trigger's not really that good. And I guess the last problem with Flare is that even though it gets really big with the Noel back row, you're going to replace the flare with your Ruxias when you hit level 2. So even if you can maintain your entire board of flares, you're actually going to have to play over them starting at level 2. So board staying power at level 1, not really that relevant in this deck because we have such a strong level 2 game. Therefore, I think flare might be a good choice, but it's not the choice that I want to go with. Generally speaking, you're looking at something that's selective and something that's either blue or yellow. So the two choices that I basically juggled with at the very end were either Corny level 1 climax combo, which is a selective combo. It's still on a choice, but again, the selectivity is better here. Or the one that I went with, which is the Botan level 1 combo. So the Botan level 1 combo, what I really like about it is not only is it a selective search combo, it also mills 2 clean cards out of your deck. So generally speaking, when you use a Shimakaze type combo, you're searching 1 clean card from your deck, which is a +1, but you're not getting that much compression because it's only searching 1. However, with a mill combo, let's say something like Shizu or something like Maguro combo, your selection is a little worse. You're milling more. However, the cards that you mill could be climaxes. So let's say if you Maguro and you mill for a clean, that's great. Your deck compression is amazing now. But if you Maguro and you mill any climax in those 4, your compression tanks super fast, right? Because if you think about it, 1 and 4 is really good compression. So every single climax you hit with a Maguro, it just destroys your compression, like super hard. That's why Maguro is a very dangerous climax combo to play with, and it can mess you up. And that's why it's also really important that if you already have cards in hand that you want, that you don't check all 4 with Maguro, because the moment you check a climax, it just goes straight downhill from there. The thing that's really special about Yuki and Botan, which also taps into that search 2, is that even though it's milling only 2 cards, it's milling 2 clean cards. You're guaranteeing those are clean cards, and that doesn't touch your compression at all, which leaves your deck in a much more compressed state than before. And so Botan, because of that, is actually a really good combo for maintaining compression, for helping you get through that first deck cleanly and leaving cancels in your deck in a really great way. With her level or her power condition, she does hit 7k, 8k with the climax, which is pretty good. That's usually good enough to beat out most level 1 climax combos with a counter behind it. Usually it's like 5-5, 6k with a 2k counter, right? So you tie that. It doesn't do that well against standby, which is a weakness of Botan, but I'm willing to take that L for the benefits that it does bring. You're not trying to triple Botan ever, I think. You're just looking for 1 or 2. That gives you the selectivity to get the missing piece that you need, and also help you just get those clean cards out of your deck. I mean, if you do get triple Botan, that's amazing, right? But that's not something that you're kind of like speccing towards in that sense. And with Botan, we do need to have cards that help benefit the memory requirement. And so I've opted for 4 copies of the Botan level 0, this card, and 2 copies of the Nene level 0. So the Botan level 0 is just a really good card. You pay 1, send it to memory. You can look at 3 cards from top of your deck and grab any Hololive character. Just really great for filtering. It also comes into really good play later on when we start assembling our Ruxia board, because generally what happens is we're gonna play our Ruxia, we're gonna summon another Ruxia. Those 2 lanes will live, and then our 3rd lane usually dies. And then the following turn, if we want to use that 3rd lane with the Botan, we can play Botans in there, pop them, send them to memory. And then we still have an empty lane that we can use to summon another card for Ruxia. Basically, the fact that she doesn't remain on board is really good for our Ruxia plays, because we don't have to summon Ruxia over a character to get some extra milling or helping us pay out stock. Also, yeah, the fact that it helps pay out stock is really good, because starting at level 2, once we've assembled the double Ruxia board, we basically never use stock, and sometimes we don't want to brainstorm because of our deck situation, or sometimes like we trigger climax maybe 1 or 2 early, and it's like, oh, we can't do anything. The Botan really helps us dig into our stock and pay out those climaxes. So this honestly is a really good card on demand. Just get free memory compression. Well, it's not free, but like get memory compression, get mill, which is really good. And we play 2 copies of the Nene. The Nene is free memory, so when it gets reversed, if you have 3 or if you have 2 or less memory, she just gets sent to memory for free. So definitely the preferable one if we are low on stock. But also her on play effect is really good. It's Kazuma from Konosuba. So on play, you can pay 1 just any card. Look at the next 3 cards of your deck. You can add anything to your hand. You don't have to show your opponent. So this can grab climaxes is really important because we want to grab our Rushia climaxes to keep looping the climaxes. So a lot of games I actually won't send the Nene to memory because I want to keep them in my deck so I can grab them and hold on to them to dig for Rushia climaxes when I need to. But between the Nene and the Boltan, we can send all of them to memory if we get really lucky, and that's 6 memory compression, which is solid. Usually we're looking for like 2 to 4 is probably what I normally get in an average game. Sometimes we just get 1 and we're okay with that. But the added memory compression does help this deck kind of dirtle out the mid game. It's really good. So this is basically the core of the deck, and we're already like a lot of cards in, right? Like already most of the deck list. So I'm really happy with kind of how easy it is to build this core out. And I think, yeah, just the inherent synergies with the colors, enabling Subaru, with the climaxes supplementing each other, because whenever you trigger pants, we can always grab the climax that we want. The search, able to get our pieces, and then just the really strong Rushia combo at level 2, summoning the Rushia, summoning Moddings for healing, grabbing cards back to your hand, all that great stuff. Oh yeah, one last thing, it's not a Rushia deck if we were not running some counters, and the most important counter is of course the Hachama counter. Hachama counter is just, it's absolutely nuts in the Rushia deck because at a certain point we just don't need hand anymore, and we also run a lot of cards that don't do a lot of stuff in the mid to late game. So the Hachama counter basically just transforms all that hand advantage that we can accrue through the Rushia combo into preventing our opponents from dealing damage, just anti-damage and like anti-attacks from our opponent. So definitely Hachama counter is really good in this deck. It's probably one of the main reasons why we want to play the Rushia combo, is we can enable Hachama counter. I'm only running 1 copy of Hachama counter. I tried it at 2. It was a little bit overkill at 2 because I would just always see it and then I would not always be able to use it. And so we're leaving it at 1, but instead we're going to be running 1 copy of the Mel counter. And so the reason why I'm going 1-1 on this is because sometimes you will trigger too many climaxes and you're kind of going to be a little flooded with climaxes. And then you can't ditch climaxes with the Hachima counter. That's kind of like the one weakness of the Hachima counter. You can only ditch Hololive characters. So if you're flooded on a bunch of climaxes, it's actually really awkward to get rid of the climaxes. And that's where the Mel comes in. The Mel helps you ditch climaxes so that you can also like filter those climaxes out for like more playables, or even try to like dig for like and dig towards like a cancel and stuff like that. So the combination of the Mel and Hachima basically allow your hand to be very live. So if you're holding too many climaxes, you could use Mel to get rid of them. If you're holding too many like just random like brainstorms or something, you can use Hachima to just really kind of put a dent into your opponent's game plan. So I'm running 1-1. I feel like this is a pretty good spread in testing so far. Alright, let's round out the rest of the deck. And the level 0, we're going to be playing 4 copies of the best onion made in the world. This Aqua is absolutely broken. Basically, this Aqua goes in every single deck that wants blue. It goes in most decks that don't want blue. It is just like one of the best cards, if not the best card in the entire set, in my opinion. It's 3-5 in the center, which means that your opponent is hard-pressed to kill it. They usually have to trade. They have to crash in order to remove it. When they do remove it off the board, you can pay 1. Clock yourself from Waiting Room, which gives you the colors that you need. Also fixes for experience, which a lot of these decks do require some experience. In our case, it fixes for color. It can also clock itself to guarantee us blue. It's like, this card's crazy. And then we can look at 2 cards from the top of our deck, and if they're both Hololive characters, we get both. That's a +2, just indiscriminate. We don't care about what those cards are. We just get them into our hands. It's just so good. This card is honestly better than Shenlin in my opinion. Shenlin is only good in Assault Lily because of the package that surrounds it, because you can neg level your opponent's stuff, and so you can actually use Shenlin to kill bigger things. But without that package surrounding it, this Aqua in a vacuum is way better. This Aqua is crazy. So we're definitely playing 4 copies of the Aqua. The Aqua just makes this deck work. It just makes our early game so powerful. Our level 0 game specifically is so good in this deck that we can literally do nothing at level 1 and we would still be in just totally perfect shape for level 2. That's like how I feel about this deck. This is why when we play the Bolton combo, it's just like icing on the cake. It just accelerates our game plan so much more, and why we don't want to really we don't need to win level 1 because we win level 0 so hard. On the topic of winning level 0, I've decided for my yellow fix, and just again to completely dominate this level 0 game, I decided to run 3 copies of the Coronate anti-run. This is a pretty flexible slot. You can use this to add more utility if you feel like more utility is needed in your deck. I personally think this Coronate is absolutely cracked. She's 3500 power with 5 or more hand, which is basically like an always condition. And then she's anti-run, so she's great against chasers, right? 3500 chasers, she locks them down and she trades with them. Otherwise, if your opponent's running any kind of other runners, she just locks them down. It's fantastic. There's also a really cheeky play if your opponent like tries to like Ayame or otherwise like level down your Rusia. You can summon the Coronate and then you lock their board and they can't actually move their board around. It's so funny. I think Cardinal's really good. You could honestly play some kind of other yellow fix. You do need some more yellow right now. Our yellow count is a little low. That's why we have the Coronates. So you can change this for some other kind of yellow and some other utility. I just think Coronate was just the best in slot for this kind of deck where we want to be really strong at level 0. Also, it's another thing where like we don't mind spending multiple turns at level 0. And honestly, if we open turn 1 Aqua in the center, sometimes our opponent is just not going to like, they're just going to be like, okay, we can't deal with that, so we're just going to play our level 0 game out slowly, like play to the sides, because Aqua's tiny on the sides, right? So if like, let's say I play an Aqua center, my opponent doesn't want to deal with it, they just play something else to the side, and generally speaking, you know, that thing's not going to die because my Aqua can't kill it, right? It's just big in the center. And so if your opponent wants to play the level 0 game out slowly, then the Coronate is really important because we basically deny them any advantage that they can get at level 0, while we get to spend more turns at level 0 building stock, and then we can transform all that stock advantage into extra milling, memory compression, and then also hand advantage. So again, I just think the Coronate fits very stylistically well with this deck. We are also going to be playing 2 copies of the Watame Climax Swap. Watame Climax Swap is the Climax Swap of choice because it is yellow, so it's good for our colors, as well as it has the effect when you cancel damage, you can send to stock. That effect is really good early game, just to give us an extra bit of stock lead, but also in the mid to late game because we're going to be playing Rusia Climaxes over and over again. So this thing is going to be swinging for 2 and probably 3 because it's probably going to be directing because Rusia is just like, gigantic. So this just helps us get extra stock so that we can kind of turbo out our game plan. And we run 2 copies because we just always want to see it. We always want to have the right Climax to play. In particular, the Rusia Climax. We basically always just want to be able to play the Rusia Climax. We're going to be running some more utility cards. So 1 copy of the 0-0 Choco. I realized that this deck does lack on-demand salvage. We do have the salvage from the Rusia combo, but until then, we do lack on-demand salvage. It adds a little bit of extra mill for our deck, so we can get through first deck really quickly, especially if like we don't get a lot of Voltons somehow or something, then we do need to mill more aggressively, or like, yeah, we missed the Subaru. I mean, milling is just good. Also, we need to mill at level 2 as well, so we can enable the Rusia to grab important cards from our waiting room. And so the milling is really good. And then lastly, the Ditch Salvage effect does pump power. Is like one of the only ways we can pump power in this deck. So if we need to pump our 1-0 Boltons to 9k, we have a way to pump it. Otherwise, it's just like no way to pump in this deck, so that's why we're running the Choco. You can play any drop search, drop salvage in this slot. I just chose Choco because again, I want the power pump, so drop salvage is good, and I like the mill. I think the mill is really nice. We're gonna play 1 copy of this mill as for our Ditch Climax salvage. So there's a reason why this mill is best in slot, and I'm gonna explain it right now. So this mill is best in slot. Number 1 is yellow, right? We need the yellow fix more than anything else because we got blue. The Aqua guarantees us blue anyways. And the second reason is because you can use this card and ditch 2 climaxes to salvage 1 card. So the second effect of this card is a ditch card bond to 2 cards that we are not running in this deck. 1 Matsuri and like 1 Hachama, right? So the idea is if you're going into a deck refresh and you've triggered way too many climaxes and you're like just flooded on climaxes, you want to just ditch those climaxes back. If you could, you would just ditch those climaxes, right? And this meld gives you the ability to just ditch a climax and say like, yeah, ditch the bond, fail target, I got the climax back in, right? Because again, once you're set with the Rusia board, your hand advantage is not important. Your compression is what matters more. This meld is the only card that basically allows you to ditch 2 cards for no reason, right? And so you can just ditch the second climax, get that into your refresh. It's all Gucci. So this is why it's actually best in slot. You run this one. The power is not relevant. This is the best Ditch Climax salvage to run. And the last card we are going to be playing is we're going to play 1 copy of 3-2 Fubuki from the trial deck. So this tech was something that I think Japan came up with, and I also adopted. I think it's really good. I was like experimenting with other 1-ofs in this slot, but ultimately when I tried Fubuki, I was like, oh, this card is so good. So the idea with the Fubuki here is that it's also a really good target to summon out with the Ruxia, because you summon it out, it gets 2/5 power, and then it has the effect when it attacks, you can also pay 1 ditch 1 to give it an additional plus 2k power and an on reverse burn 1, which helps us with finishing. And then the second effect is that at the start of your opponent's draw phase, you can assign 4k somewhere. So you can pump itself 4k, you can pump one of the Ruxias 4k, it just makes your board a lot more bigger and a lot harder to deal with. Generally speaking though, if you're at level 2 and you want to heal down, you should still summon the Marin. But you summon the Fubuki mostly at level 3 to push for lethal and to also prevent your opponent from reversing your Ruxias at level 3. Because like generally speaking at level 2, if they're going to reverse your Ruxias, you can still hand-on core them. There's usually not that many like good on-reverse effects at level 2 that you have to worry about, or they'll just like hard remove it with like Adachis or something like that. But at level 3, that's when you get like on-reverse combos that you have to worry about. That's like that could be really dangerous. And at level 3, that's when your opponent's level like power lines are also bigger, and in which case if you just like Ruxia summon a Marin, maybe the Marin actually doesn't kill something. But if you Ruxia summon the Fubuki basically is always going to get over whatever it's attacking, because if you arrange your board with the Fubuki in front of your level support, right, it's basically swinging for like 16k 17k with the climax, right? So it's like it's getting over whatever you want it to get over. So I think Fubuki is definitely the best one of in this slot for finishing. And this is my deck. Honestly, I've been playing this deck. It's been really fun. I'm almost sad that I'm going to get double rares to replace some of these cards, because honestly, these cards are just like so good right here. Actually, if I got the double rares, I think the only thing I would really replace is like the Bolton combo for like Pekora. Maybe. I actually find the Bolton to be really, really strong. I don't even think Pekora is an upgrade. It might be like a side grade. I guess running Pekora does open up more slots at level 0, but like the slots at level 0 are still really strong. Like we're playing cards that help us dig for the climaxes. We're playing cards that give us compression and more dig. So honestly, this is basically like as good, if not like better than every meta deck for Hololive out there. And you can build it without using a single double rare card. This is basically the cream of the crop. This is as good as it gets for budget Weiss shorts. Like I don't expect a budget Weiss shorts deck to beat this deck in like a year, right? I think this is actually crazy how good this is. So if you guys have the opportunity to try this deck, I highly suggest you guys to try it. It's really fun. The game plan of the deck is pretty straightforward. You just set up for Ruxia, but you get a lot of lines of play in the process. It's actually not really autopilot. You do get to have a lot of interesting decision-making choices, especially with this deck with like the Boltons and like how much you want to mill, how much stock you want to invest into milling versus doing other things. So I definitely think it's a really fun deck to play as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. I hope this helps you, gives you guys some ideas, and I hope this also makes Hololive not a daunting set to get into. Again, you know, like a huge booster set, 6 trial decks might be really difficult, but hopefully this series and also this budget deck will help people be able to get into Hololive, take a step in, and just really enjoy this set. I think this set is really fun. I'm really looking forward to playing more of it. So that's it for me. The next time you'll see a video from me, it will be with Hololive double rares, and we're going to be trying out and playing a bunch of other sets. Also look for more Gochi content. I am behind on that, but I will definitely get that out one day. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, following. I just kind of want to also take this time to just say I'm really happy, very appreciative that I've hit over 100 subs. So I'm really glad for all your support. I just really appreciate it. And thank you. See you guys next time. Peace.